This is the one thing that holds real estate investors back the most from building a meaningful and successful real estate investing business. When I say investing business, I'm talking mainly about rental real estate, but this could apply to short-term rentals, this could apply to flips, this could apply to any real estate strategy that you are employing currently. And the one thing that we're going to talk about in this video is shiny object syndrome. This is the thing that holds people back the most. Oh, real estate investors over here are making a pile of cash. I want to try that. Or over here. And then we get spread so thin. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to go an inch wide and a mile deep instead of an inch deep and a mile wide, spreading ourselves too thin. And this isn't something that I've just seen other investors have issue with. This is something that I have seen in my own business. Starting from my inception into the business world, as I got into real estate, I had decided that I was going to pursue small multifamily rental properties. This is 2 to 4 unit buildings considered your residential multifamily. And my goal was to be the #1 small multifamily real estate investor in the state of North Carolina because that's where I was at the time. So I went and bought a 3 unit, I went and bought a 2 unit, ran out of money, partnered with somebody, and we went to go and buy 8 units together, a 4 unit and two units. And a friend of mine who I was in the service with, he was also stepping out of the military to pursue real estate investing. And he was buying these big apartment complexes. And he stopped me one day and he said, dude, you need to go bigger. These 2 to 4 units isn't going to do it for you. You need to start stepping into some bigger stuff. And granted, I bought 14 units in my first 12 months of real estate investing. So my mind went off in terms of what the possibilities were. I thought if I could go from 0 to 14 units that quickly, what's to stop me from going and buying an 80 unit or 120 unit apartment complex? But what I didn't realize at the time was that was just shiny object syndrome. My friend meant well because he was finding success doing what he was doing, but he also went and bought a 4 unit, then an 8 unit, then a 12 unit, 16, 24, and then started graduating up into some bigger stuff where I was still pretty new to the business world and pretty new to real estate. And what I didn't realize is I should have just kept my nose to the grindstone and stayed true to my initial statement of being the best 2 to 4 unit multifamily investor in the state of North Carolina. But as you could probably guess, I heeded the advice of my friend, and me and my then business partner decided we're going to go buy a 50 unit or above in the next 90 days. Now, this was a huge goal to set, which I can appreciate, but it held us back in a number of different ways because getting into the syndication model of real estate investing was a whole new learning curve that I didn't know anything about. So I needed to learn how to raise capital in that specific way and how to do investor distributions and finding the right connections and dealing with brokers and this whole new world of commercial multifamily. And what ultimately happened was this sent us on a years long needing to find our way back to what we actually wanted to accomplish. And the reason that we got thrown off is because we weren't exactly clear on what it was that we wanted and exactly how to get there. So we ended up joining a multifamily mastermind. And there was all kinds of really successful investors in there that were, again, doing all kinds of different strategies. Short-term rentals, mobile home parks, RV parks, storage facilities. They were strictly wholesalers. So we got into this group, and because we weren't clear on what we wanted, each time we went to an event, we would get sidetracked with a new shiny object. My good friend Rafa Loza is killing it in short-term rentals and Airbnbs. And because we weren't finding success in what we were doing on the multifamily side, we thought, oh, he made it seem so easy. Let me jump in and try to do short-term rentals. And it turns out, after you start implementing the strategies, it's really hard to get started. And the same thing, we'd go to a different event, and my other friend, Chris Stroop, they're not Chris Drew, Chris Rude. He's buying mobile home park. I'm like, well, that's what we're going to go focus on. But what we didn't realize is that these individuals had years and years focusing in and sharpening their craft. So when they talked about it and talked about the millions of dollars that they were making, they made it seem so easy. But starting from zero is hard regardless of the industry. So through 2.5, 3 years of recognizing, okay, this isn't going to work. And somebody pulled me aside and said, dude, you need to focus on one thing and get really good at it. So that's exactly what I did. And the verse here that comes to mind is one of my favorite verses. It's Proverbs 13:11 that says, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. We go out and we want to gain wealth hastily. We want to make a quick bag or make a quick bump here or there, just do something that seems so easy, but that's rarely the case. There might be one-offs that we'll see where people go and make a big pop, or they get in at the right time with the right circumstances, and they see a lot of success very, very quickly, but that's not always the case. Somebody looking from the outside in on my initial start into real estate could say, how did he go from 0 to 14 units in the first year? How could that possibly, well, let me jump and do exactly what he did. Where I could be looking at somebody else and be like, how did they go from 0 to 100 units in their first year? It's all about perspective, but recognizing where we're at, our current business acumen, and what are the resources that are available to us is really important. So Proverbs 13:11, we want to gain little by little, and we're going to keep that in mind as we get into how do we avoid this shiny object syndrome. And there's 3 things that I have here outlined, which is the first is we got to get clear on what we want. We have to get clear on what we want, because if we don't know where we're going, we might not get there. We need to have, okay, this is the target, and what do I need to do in order to get to that target, which is the point number 2 of how to avoid shiny object syndrome, which is getting clear on how to get there. Because when I was first investing in real estate, I always said, I want to get to a certain door count. I want to get to this many doors. And one of my mentors stopped me. He said, what does the door count have to do with anything? You can have 1,000 doors and make $0. So we need to reverse engineer, what does each door produce in net income? And that's how we get there. What do we want? We want steady monthly passive income from our rental portfolio. How do we get there? I needed to decide, I'm going to do multifamily real estate, because if I was doing a little bit of multifamily, a little bit of short-term rental, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, who's going to get clear on how could I get clear, and how could I possibly build a team on getting to the goal of what that residual monthly income should look like? And then the last point on that is long suffering, aka patience. James chapter 1 verse 2 says, count it all joy, my brothers, when you face trials of various kinds, because we know that the trials and challenges produce steadfastness. Are we willing to weather the storm when the strategy that we have chosen is proving to be difficult? Starting from 0, difficult. Going from 1 to 10, also difficult. Going from 10 to 100, in terms of door count, those things are difficult, but do we have the patience to see them through? And then some of the fruit of that is building a team. We can't build an effective team if they don't know where we're going and exactly how we're going to get there. And also, it's going to derail our focus. If we don't know where we're going exactly and how we're going to get there, it's going to be so easy for us to get bumped off of course, and from the daily actions to everything that we have going on the big picture, it's going to prove to be pretty challenging to stay focused and consistent. And then also this comes down to chasing a feeling rather than building from a firm foundation. Because if we're chasing the feeling of, oh, here's the hot new thing that I have going on, or we have something to impress the people around us at our meetup, in our mastermind, or wherever we got going on, We're chasing a feeling of look at me instead of actually building something meaningful. That goes back to the inch wide and a mile deep versus a mile wide. Everybody can see what I'm building, but it only goes so far deep. And one of the quotes and phrases that I have simply just relied on is the phrase that we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. Because here's the truth. Shiny object syndrome never goes away. It never goes away. I mean, and the reason I'm actually recording this video is because I just recently went to my multifamily mastermind. And over the last, call it 24 months, we've acquired around 80 apartment units, and we've renovated a lot of them, and they're spread across, my city here and the city north of us, all within about a 30-40 minute radius. However, because we did that, and because it was challenging, having 5 crews working at any given time, multiple job sites, driving all around town, I realized it would probably be easier for me to do 150 unit or 80 unit or 100 unit back to what I wanted to do at the very beginning when I got knocked off course, rather than doing 50 units spread across 5 or 6 different buildings across 2 separate metros. That was the natural next step in our mind, but the natural next step isn't always the right step. We got to get wise counsel to lead us in the right direction. And the reason masterminds are so important is because just from one 5-minute conversation, I got put back on course. So a good friend of mine, Tim Vitale, he's got about 2,000 doors, and he did it in the last 6 years. Crazy. It's so easy to look at him and be like, I need to do exactly what you did. But that also comes with solving the problems that he had to solve, building the team that he had to build, going through the trials and challenges that he had to in order to come out on top with 2,000 units. But we were having this conversation about me wanting to go and buy that 50, 80, 100 unit building. And he's like, well, why would you want to do that? Because you might have even seen on social media how Brandon Turner is talking about having $15 million of investor capital that he needs to pay back over the course of time because a deal went south. And this is something that's happening in our faces because it's on social media, but also this is happening behind the scenes. Not everybody has the integrity that Brandon Turner has to come out and put it on social media and just let everybody know what the deal is. So we know that deals like this are failing. And he asked me, what is the strategy that you're doing now? And I said, I'm BRRRRing multifamily properties. And he said, okay, well, are you giving up any equity? How are you raising capital? I told him we're buying with hard money. We're raising private capital in 18 months. We pay back our investors their initial principal and their interest. And he said, so you own the deals 100%. And of course, yes, I own the deals 100%. Because years ago, I said that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to own my portfolio 100% instead of giving away all the equity in order to get deals done. And he's like, well, why would you stop doing what's working? Why would you stop doing what's working? And I want to pull this out because 6 years ago, almost 7 years ago when I first got started, that was the question I had to ask myself, but I didn't have the business acumen and I didn't have the advisors in my counsel to be able to say, why would you stop doing what's working? Because when I look back on the situation, when I went from buying 2 to 4 unit apartments to wanting to now buy 50, 80, 120 unit complexes, I should have stopped and asked myself, why would I stop what's working? And now 6 years later, I do have that right counsel. And so he goes on to tell me about another investor he built his business the way that I'm building it. And now he's got 6,000 doors and he owns them all 100%. So what I want to convey to you is what I'm learning through this is if we put our blinders on and say no to things that are not in our perspective, that are not in our business plan. When we say get clear on what we want, this isn't what I want. And I know that. It's cool what you are doing. It's cool what my friends are building. It's amazing to see that they're making lots of money with their strategy, but it's not my strategy and it's not my story. So if I can just put my blinders on, if you can just put your blinders on, say, I'm going to stay dedicated to this for a decade. I'm going to get really good at this. I'm going to go an inch wide and a mile deep with deep roots and a deep foundation. And we'll look up after those 10 years and we'll have built something truly amazing. And that's the realization that I had. And again, we need to be reminded more than we need to be taught, because I would still consider myself I have so much to learn in real estate. And there are so many people who have been doing it for a long time. I need to be able to glean that from them, and I need to be reminded not to get bumped off course because something is sexy. Going and buying the 50, 80, 100, I don't have the bankroll to be able to go buy that 100% myself, versus if I just keep buying 5, 10, 15, 20 unit apartment complexes, build out a really strong foundation of properties that I own 100%, 5, 10 years from now, I'll be able to go buy that 50, 100, 120 unit apartment complex without having to give up any equity. So whatever strategy you are employing, I encourage you, get clear on what it is that you want. You know, when I first got started, it was, I want to replace my income that I had from the Air Force with rental properties. Well, actually, before that, it started with, I want to have residual income that covers my monthly expenses. And then from there, replace my income with the Air Force. And then from there, it was $5,000 net. And then from there, it was $10,000 net. And just building from that and reverse engineering, how many rental properties do I need to have? How many doors do I need to have to make $10,000 net at the end of each month? And get clear on how we're going to get there. I have to say no to short-term rentals. I have to say no to this strategy over here and focus simply on buying apartment complexes between the numbers of 2 and 20, 2 and 30, whatever makes sense within a 30 to 40 minute radius from where I live, so we can continue building out a team, because we have a team now, and we can continue implementing the strategy, getting so good at the strategy, it would be impossible to ignore us. When an opportunity comes up, I want people calling my phone and saying, hey, Trevor, I know that you're going to close on this because you close on properties like this, and you've built out a firm foundation of doing such. And we need to be able to take information from the people that are around us. We need to be able to take information from the people that are around us and implement long suffering. So get clear on what it is that we want, get clear on exactly how we're going to do it so we can build the team to get there. And then, of course, we've got to have that long suffering. Even when we might be rinsing and repeating the same strategy and it might be getting a little boring, can we continue to suffer through and have the patience to burst through that and create something that nobody in our area has created before? And that, my friend, is exactly how you build a real estate investing company that lasts, where we find real success, not just success that shows up on social media, not just success about the things that we talk about when we go to the meetups and we tell about our best deals and this, that, and the other thing, but real success. If somebody were to peel back the curtain of our business, they would see something that operates smoothly, that operates effectively, and it operates at a level that we can actually teach and then go forth and 10x what we're doing, because we've built a strategy that does not fail. I hope that this video blessed you. I hope that this video served you. I'll be posting videos every Tuesday at 10:30, and it's going to have a mix of real estate, business, personal development, and of course, faith tied in, as we saw with Proverbs 13:11. And I'll also leave you with this final verse, which ties a nice little bow on all this, which is Proverbs 23, verses 4 through 5. Do not toil to acquire wealth. Be discerning enough to desist. Meaning, I need to recognize opportunities that are not the right opportunity for me. I need to be able to say no to shiny object syndrome and focus on the goals that I've set before myself and before my team. When your eyes light on it, it is gone. for suddenly it sprouts wings, flying like an eagle toward heaven. This is exactly what I laid out in my experiences with shiny object syndrome. It's really hard to start from 0 to 1. So let's go from 1 to 10, 10 to 100, 100 to 1,000. May God bless you and Godspeed.